An ordinary flight from Istanbul to Amsterdam, 135 people on board, but behind the cockpit door, an invisible enemy lurked, an enemy so small, yet deadly enough to bring the entire plane down. A faulty altimeter triggered a catastrophic chain of events that led to one of aviation's most tragic crashes. How did it happen? And could it have been prevented? This is the chilling story of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951. February 25, 2009. Turkish Airlines Flight 1951, a Boeing 737-800, was making its way from Istanbul, Turkey, to Amsterdam, Netherlands. On board were 128 passengers and 7 crew members, a mix of Turkish, Dutch, and international travelers, including 3 Boeing employees. A seemingly routine flight, until it became a race against time and a disaster waiting to unfold. The journey began without incident. At 8:22 a.m., Flight 1951 took off from Istanbul Ataturk Airport. Captain Hasan Tahsin Arisan, a seasoned pilot with over 5,000 hours of flight experience, was at the helm. Alongside him was First Officer Olgay Ozgur and trainee pilot Murat Sezer. All expected the flight to be like any other, a calm 2-hour trip across Europe. But as the plane ascended into the skies, no one knew the tragedy that was unfolding silently in the cockpit. As Flight 1951 approached Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, something went terribly wrong. At an altitude of 1,950 feet, a critical malfunction occurred. The radio altimeter, a key instrument for measuring the aircraft's height above the ground, misread the height as -8 feet. This tiny error set off a deadly chain of reactions. The autopilot, receiving the false data, automatically reduced engine power, slowing the plane down at a crucial moment. The crew, still unaware of the malfunction, continued their descent, believing everything was proceeding as planned. But they were about to discover how one small error could lead to catastrophic consequences. As the aircraft neared 490 feet, a warning sounded. The stick shaker, designed to alert pilots of an imminent stall, activated. The plane was dangerously close to losing control. With engines throttling down and the aircraft now dangerously slow, the situation escalated fast. But the crew, still disoriented and unaware of the faulty altimeter's role, continued to descend toward disaster. The autopilot had taken control of the descent, but it was only making the situation worse. They were now locked in a fight against time, with the plane losing speed and altitude at an alarming rate. It all happened in a matter of seconds. The aircraft stalled. With no power, the plane plummeted. It struck the ground tail first at a speed of 95 knots. The impact was violent, breaking the plane into 3 parts, but somehow, miraculously, it didn't catch fire. The passengers, unaware of the impending danger just moments earlier, were suddenly bracing for impact. Those who survived would later describe the terrifying moments after the crash, when everything changed in an instant. Emergency crews were quick to respond, pulling survivors from the wreckage, but the crash came at a heavy cost. 9 people, including all 3 pilots, tragically lost their lives. Of the 86 injured, several were in critical condition. In the wreckage, the survivors faced the horror of what had just happened, while the world tried to comprehend how such a tragedy could unfold from a routine flight. An investigation by the Dutch Safety Board revealed the truth behind the disaster. The crash was caused by the malfunction of the radio altimeter, which led to a series of failures. The crew didn't recognize the danger in time, and the autopilot, relying on the faulty data, cut the engines, causing the aircraft to lose speed and stall. Further scrutiny revealed another crucial error. The crew didn't manually override the autopilot when the stall warning sounded. This failure to act swiftly was the fatal mistake that sealed their fate. The Dutch Safety Board's report emphasized the need for pilots to be extra vigilant, particularly when it comes to primary flight instruments during critical moments, like descent. The crash led to significant changes in aviation safety protocols. Boeing issued urgent safety updates, reminding pilots to monitor their instruments more carefully and to take control when the situation demands it. Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 serves as a haunting reminder of how fragile our sense of security in flight can be. A routine flight turned into a nightmare because of a small but deadly malfunction. But through the pain and loss, the aviation industry learned valuable lessons that have made flying safer for everyone. The tragedy of Flight 1951 reminds us that in aviation, as in life, every second counts. Though the lives lost cannot be replaced, their legacy lives on in the safety improvements that followed, ensuring that this kind of disaster is less likely to repeat itself. The lessons learned from this disaster have made the skies a little bit safer, but it all came at a devastating cost. Gap 2S. The investigation into Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 was meticulous and thorough. The Dutch Safety Board, along with other international aviation authorities, worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading to the crash. Gap 1S. At the heart of the investigation was the malfunction of the aircraft's radio altimeter. This critical instrument incorrectly reported the plane's altitude, causing the auto-throttle system to reduce engine power as if the aircraft were on final approach. The sudden drop in speed led to a stall, and the pilot's attempts to recover were tragically too late. Gap 1S. The investigation also highlighted the importance of crew training and communication. The cockpit voice recorder revealed moments of confusion and delayed responses as the pilot struggled to understand the malfunction. This led to significant changes in how pilots are trained to handle instrument failures and emphasized the need for clear, decisive communication in the cockpit. Gap 1S. Furthermore, the crash underscored the necessity for regular maintenance and checks of critical flight instruments. Airlines worldwide were prompted to review and update their procedures to ensure such a malfunction would be detected and rectified before it could lead to another disaster. Gap 1S. In the end, the findings from the investigation were a somber reminder of the complexities of modern aviation. Each component, no matter how small, plays a vital role in ensuring the safety of every flight. The legacy of Flight 1951 lives on through these findings, driving continuous improvements in aviation safety standards. Gap 2S. While the crash of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 was a tragedy, the lessons learned from the investigation have contributed to making the skies safer for everyone. Gap 2S. The crash of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 had far-reaching implications for global aviation safety regulations. In the wake of the tragedy, regulatory bodies across the world took swift action to implement the lessons learned from the detailed investigation. Gap 1S. One of the most significant changes was the overhaul of the radio altimeter systems. Airlines were mandated to perform more frequent checks and updates to ensure the accuracy and reliability of these critical instruments. This move was instrumental in preventing similar incidents from occurring in the future. Gap 1S. Additionally, new protocols were introduced for auto-throttle systems, ensuring that pilots had more control and better understanding of its functionalities. These changes included enhanced training modules that focused on the interaction between human pilots and automated systems, aiming to bridge any gaps in knowledge and response time. Gap 1S. The importance of crew resource management was also underscored. Training programs were revised to emphasize the need for clear communication and decisive action in the cockpit, especially during emergencies. Pilots now undergo rigorous simulations to better prepare them for handling unexpected instrument failures and other critical scenarios. Gap 1S. Furthermore, the crash prompted a re-evaluation of maintenance procedures. Airlines were required to adopt more stringent maintenance schedules and protocols, ensuring that all flight instruments were regularly inspected and maintained to the highest standards. This proactive approach has significantly enhanced the overall safety of commercial aviation. Gap 1S. The legacy of Flight 1951 continues to influence aviation safety regulations to this day. The changes implemented as a result of the crash have not only improved the reliability of aircraft systems, but also heightened the preparedness of flight crews. These advancements serve as a testament to the industry's commitment to learning from past tragedies and striving towards a safer future for all. Gap 2S. As we look back on the events surrounding Turkish Airlines Flight 1951, it is clear that the lessons learned have paved the way for a new era of aviation safety. The skies are indeed safer, thanks to the tireless efforts of investigators, regulatory bodies, and the entire aviation community. Gap 2S. The crash of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 left an indelible mark not only on aviation safety but also on the lives of those who survived and their families. In their own words, survivors recount the moments of terror, the resilience they found within themselves, and the long journey towards healing. Gap 1S. Survivor's Voice 1. I remember the impact, the confusion, and the overwhelming fear. But amidst the chaos, there were moments of incredible bravery and kindness. Strangers became lifelines, and we held on to each other, determined to survive. Gap 1S. Survivor's Voice 2. The days after the crash were some of the hardest. Physically, we were battered, but the emotional scars ran deeper. Support from family, friends, and even strangers helped us begin to piece our lives back together. Gap 1S. Family member's voice. When I heard about the crash, my world shattered. But seeing my loved one walk out of that hospital was a miracle. The healing process was slow, but our bond grew stronger as we navigated through the trauma together. Gap 1S. These personal accounts highlight the human side of the tragedy, reminding us that beyond the technical investigations and regulatory changes, there are real people whose lives were forever altered. Their stories of courage and resilience serve as a powerful testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome even the most harrowing of experiences. Gap 1S. The survivors and their families have become advocates for aviation safety, sharing their experiences to ensure that the lessons learned from Flight 1951 are never forgotten. Their voices add a deeply personal dimension to the ongoing efforts to make air travel safer for everyone. Gap 1S. As we reflect on their stories, we are reminded of the profound impact of this tragedy and the importance of continuing to strive for improvements in aviation safety. The legacy of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 lives on not just in regulatory changes, but in the hearts and minds of those who lived through it and those who lost loved ones. Gap 2S. Their resilience and advocacy inspire us all to work towards a future where such tragedies are averted, and every flight is a promise of safe passage. The journey of healing and progress continues, fueled by the enduring strength of the human spirit. Gap 2S. The crash of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 has left a significant imprint on the aviation sector, leading to crucial changes aimed at preventing similar tragedies in the future. This chapter delves into the lessons learned from the incident and the measures taken to enhance aviation safety. Gap 1S. One of the primary lessons from the crash was the critical importance of accurate and timely communication between pilots and air traffic control. Enhanced protocols and training programs have been implemented to ensure that clear and precise information is exchanged during critical phases of flight. Gap 1S. Another significant lesson was the necessity of rigorous maintenance and inspection of aircraft systems. The investigation revealed that a faulty radio altimeter played a pivotal role in the crash. In response, airlines and regulatory bodies worldwide have tightened maintenance schedules and introduced advanced diagnostic tools to monitor aircraft systems more effectively. Gap 1S. Additionally, the crash underscored the need for continuous pilot training, particularly in handling unexpected situations. Modern simulators now include scenarios based on real-life incidents like Flight 1951 to better prepare pilots for emergencies. Gap 1S. The aviation industry has also embraced a culture of safety and transparency, encouraging open reporting of potential hazards without fear of retribution. This proactive approach allows for early identification and mitigation of risks, fostering a safer environment for both passengers and crew. Gap 1S. These lessons and improvements are a testament to the industry's commitment to learning from past tragedies and striving for a safer future. The legacy of Turkish Airlines Flight 1951 is not just in the memories of those who experienced it, but in the tangible changes that make air travel safer for everyone. Gap 2S. As we continue to innovate and improve, the voices of survivors and the lessons from the past guide us towards a future where every flight is a testament to our dedication to safety and excellence. The journey towards a safer aviation industry is ongoing, and it is through our collective efforts that we honor the memory of those affected by Flight 1951.